So, there's this word that goes round quite often. It's kind of one of these modern terms which people use when they're talking about culture and the way things are progressing. Are we living in a progressive culture? Are we living in a conservative culture? Where's it going? Are people being forwarded towards liberalism, traditionalism, conservative isms, all these isms, and it's regarded as the culture war. You hear it all the time with these annoying pundits, these people that I fundamentally hate. I do not like these people, right? Ben Shapiro. If you listen to Ben Shapiro, do not be watching this channel, okay? You've lost cause. A lost cause if you watch Ben Shapiro. Okay? Only watch Ben Shapiro to analyse the true meaning of what he is doing, or the true meaning of what any of these reactionary, motivating people do, because this is what their job is. And this is the culture war, because we have two sides to the culture war, of course, because everything's a duality. We have the good, the bad, the white and the black, the yin and the yang, right? And this is what it is. So we've got reactionaries, right? And then you've got creatives. And reactionaries are produced through consumerism, and creatives are produced through individualism. And what we have is this situation. Now I'm going to give an example of the purpose of the reactionary types, or the reactionary motivators. It's like Ben Shapiro, like Russell Brand, who... Now we all know, like, over time, that, especially since the past, 2 years and everything that's been going on, people don't trust the news. They never really did to begin with, but people don't accept the lies of the visions in which are told to us through the television. Okay, the machine box. People don't accept it. People don't agree with it. So what's the alternative? How do we get a reactionary message that, when accepted, allows other people to control you? How do we get that message out to people so that we can control them, but believe that they are being told to it by someone who wants change? And this is the reactionary pundits, the Russell Brands, the Ben Shapiros. Because what they do is they talk about these things that happen in the culture, and they talk about Joe Biden and his ice cream, and then you go on, the Daily Wire Instagram page, and you're looking at, they create memes, so they create mimetic warfare that then gets viral, so that you just react to it and laugh at it and find it comedic and funny, and that's it. That's all they do. that's what they do. So that's an example of what the Daily Wire does. They do reports about things. It's reactionary content, it's political content, talking about politics and the democracy that supposedly exists behind it, or whatever, all of that stuff. But the fundamental purpose of it is because, and I think this is especially the case with Russell Brand, because these people are all just talking and talking and talking and reacting and reacting and reacting, and they don't give any solutions. But what they do, and this is the thing that they do, they continue the possession of thought forms in your mind, or what Madame Blavatsky would have called egregores. Okay? So this is what they do. They hold a space in the culture, a kind of chaos magician space, where they can then, in a way, expedite and send out the message in which is to possess your mind, so that you're not only controlled by it, but your mind is always preoccupied with it. And by being preoccupied with something, or a thought form, or an egregor in your mind, you're in some sense a slave to that thought, and it controls your actions, and it controls the way you hold yourself as a human being, and it controls your sovereignty as a human being, as an individual. And in a lot of a sense, it takes it away. And this is what they do because, of course, they have to constantly create content about reacting to the political mainstream media, in which people want to get away from, because people don't give a shit about that. People want to live their own lives, their own individual lives, create their own cultures and their own artistic expressions and endeavours. But the only way to get away from people being individual sovereign people who create things from their own will is by creating egregors and thought forms in which go out into the culture that possess people's minds, so that people are always preoccupied into the slave mentality. This is the whole point. This is why these people exist. This is why there is a platform for them. This is why they are extremely popular. This is why they are always propagated in the algorithm. Why do you think they're not cancelled? For a reason. And if you actually observe these people, they don't actually give you any answers to anything. They don't give you an outcome. Or they don't give you a conclusion. They don't say, you know what, we should maybe actually do this. And maybe this might help. And maybe we should try and create these kind of groups in reality and not just based around on the internet or whatever, or all this type of stuff. This is what these people do. And this is how the reactionary game is winning, because it allows people and it inculcates people and it rocks them and it soothes them into a slave mentality and a mindset in which the mainstream media continues its possession, but through a different angle, by using certain pundits. And this is what I mean by Pied Pipers. You remember that video I did? If you saw it, the Pied Pipers, I was talking about these kind of individual revolutionary types that hold that persona of revolutionaries, but they're just fundamentally Pied Pipers who just exist to continue the thought forms of the mainstream media. Because if you're an actual anarchist and you want to actually, and I'm not going to go into the politics of my definition of anarchist, to be a creative, to want to create and find new things within the world and put something new that breaks boundaries and fourth walls, breaks the fourth dimension. If you want to control that and you want to stop it, and you want, let's say if there's an elitist group that want to stay in control, they need to create a slave mindset and they need to forward it through you, and they do that through reactionism, or people who are reactionaries, because you consume things, consume. This is what most of our culture is based on. It's a consumerist culture, and it's built like that for a reason, so that you don't create and you don't break the boundaries in which are set in that control you. And for example, so you got television, you consume it. It's a black screen. It's a obelisk. You consume it. It gives you things in which you're not seeking, but they make you want to seek for them. So then you create them to come to you. And this is like TV, Netflix, all this shit. And then consumerist food, things that are not good for you, bad food, fast food, things that make you stupid. And then, of course, comforting lifestyles which cause you to stagnate. These things suppress you and they depress you. And this is why people get depression, because these things depress your creative will. They depress your freedom. And this is where we get the problems. So we have consumerist cultures, elements of consumer culture, and then you have elements of the creative lifestyle, which is difficult to get into because the culture itself in which you live in doesn't support it on the main stage. It may support it on these smaller stages that are like kind of around the main stage, that are not really looked at often or given the attention or given the spotlight, in which is shone or pointed at from the back of the hall. It's not given the limelight, but there are these kind of little small stages in where, oh, this can occupy this space. And, you know, some internet cultures, for example, what I'm trying to do with Mayorum Society is another example. But the mainstream media, or the mainstream in which people are floating down in their little canoes, or whatever, or just floating in, like bobbing their heads because they can barely survive and stuff, or trying to swim through, the main river it only streams one way. And that one way is through consumerism, and is not, and it's towards reactionism and being reactionary. And I think this is also built into the other thing I was saying in the other video about why people struggle with creativity, is because you live in a culture where they don't, I say they, I mean the thing in which has the power, don't want you to be creative, because it creates things in which are difficult to control. It's not easy to control a creative person. It's not easy to control a creative person, but it's very easy to control a non-creative person, because they rely on consumerism. And now you might be saying, well, this video is based on a reaction of what you're saying, and you're doing a reactionary video. I'm not. I'm simply trying to describe what people do not see on a large scale. And this is the problem with reactionary. And this is the thing, it's an illusion of culture. People literally just fall into it, and they just say, oh, I support this view, I support traditionalism, let's bring traditionalism back. We can't bring things back that have already existed in the past. So they're just, again, a reactionary. They're not creating a fundamental answer to any of these situations or any of these problems. They're just looking back at what has kind of worked in a certain time and space and saying, well, I kind of like that, so let's bring that back. But no, nothing comes back the same way that it was. Everything changes. And this is the fundamental issue, because when you look around, what do you see that is so inspiring? And I mean, the thing is, me personally, I'm inspired by what has been made, what is beautiful. But in right now, what is highlighted in the world that is innovative and beautiful, there really isn't anything. There's nothing going on. It's really strange, because I mean, I'm kind of surprised of how long Hollywood has lasted to exist. But then the only reason why it exists is because people just keep consuming it anyway. But this is the problem. And this is the battle in which is the culture war. This is what the culture war is. People say, oh, the culture war, and then you have Ben Shapiro saying, oh, the culture war, and they talk about the left and the right. See, this is another illusion. Another illusion people buy into is the dialectic, the Hegelian dialectic, in which is made to control you. You need to break that. You need to break the Hegelian dialectic. Politics is a Hegelian dialectic of left and right. Left and right. Bing bong, ping pong. It's like always going back and forth. And the ball in which it's bouncing is potential. And it's keeping it restricted in a certain space. It's going ding, ding. Oh, the left said this, or the right said this. Dung, dung, dung. That's the whole game. It's a game. And it's boundaries to keep you in a box. A cubic box. Hypercubism. It's keeping you restricted from your complete creative potential. Hegelian dialectics are made to do that. And the biggest example is politics, because it's just so sad. People are imprisoned into a political view. I don't give a shit about politics. I think it's all bullshit. I think it's all crap. The whole thing is a load of crap. Right? Are you left? Who did you vote for? I don't give a shit. I'm not going to vote for anyone. Unless there was because the problem is, this is another thing, it's like I'm saying, unless there was, but that isn't even the answer. Unless there was what? The whole thing is to keep you in that box of, let's vote for this and there's going to be a reaction, because we cannot rely on these things when there's so much lack of authenticity. Politics is the most inauthentic thing. And for example, it's like, you have voting systems, right, and then you have all the pillars that are put up. It's not like they're putting up anything that's gonna shine on to stand on forever, in which people are gonna see and be inspired by. They put up these posters, these cardboard cutouts of these stupid faces. Put it on these elements of these walls and these trees. They staple it in, and then like a couple of weeks later, we're just gonna take it down. It's all a game. It's just all an illusion. It's all a game. People suck it up. Like, why do you think the symbolism? And I'm having a rant here. I'm just having rants all the time because it aggravates me. Because, like, do you think the symbolism in which is used to propagate politics illustrates the meaning and the importance of what you think politics is? No. Cardboard cutouts, they depreciate. It's not like they're building statues of these people. Because they represent these values that are transcendent. No, that's not what it is. It's nothing like that. They just take the things down. We've entertained the masses. Take them down. They did their voting. They believe they're free. They believe they live in a bureaucracy. And then we're done. And that's it. And this is it. It's self-evident. It's self-evident. But this is the thing what controls people, and it's understanding, and ultimately this video is to illustrate that people need to understand and see the differences between the reactionary world and the creative world, and what they want you to fall into and what they don't want you to fall into, because the other one represents something much more higher and much more beautiful. And the categories in which you can identify this is through ideology, consumerism, Hegelian dialectics, which are created for there to be boundaries of potential that are stuck in one-sided kind of dualities, or like the left and the right. Nothing extends out of the left and the right. It's there to keep you believing that there's some sort of order, and it's kind of like a false hope in a way. And being possessed by thought forms, and on a more of an occult interpretations, they're called egregors, because they're there to possess you so that you react and you don't actually create and think of how to react or think for yourself. And this is the reactionary world and the creative world. The slave mindset and the G mindset, or the slave mindset and the master, the slave morality, the master morality, all these things. And some people might say, not everyone can be a master of themselves, because then you won't be living in a world where, like, they say, you need slaves at least. I don't know, I'm just illustrating what it is. I don't believe that. I think everyone can be a master of themselves. We can create cultures in which people are masters of themselves. And that's kind of how I see the culture war, what the culture war is. There are these interesting dynamics that hopefully this video has given you some kind of keynotes on how to identify. The culture war is a war that's being played within itself, and it's fundamentally a war against you and your individuality and your personality and your authenticity and your creativity. It's a war against what you could be and what you should be and who you could become. And that's what in the Mayorum Society program, the transformation program that I'm running, in which we're still receiving applications for, and that's what we're doing on that. And that's all got to do with finding yourself, self-transformation, a coaching network in which occupies places for people who want to develop themselves in finance, life skills, all sorts of stuff. How to develop business marketing skills, nutrition. We've got personal trainers on there, all sorts of stuff. So if you're interested in that, go and check it out in the link in the description. You can fill out the application form, and then we'll sign you up to a free consultation call, in which we will then get get back to you as soon as possible. So if you want to check that out, that is the program which I'm running, and it is going pretty damn well so far. There's a lot of applications. There's a lot of sifting through of people's stories that they're describing to us, and it's beautiful to just see how motivated some people are to kind of like get things going for themselves. So I'm really excited to just get it on board and just to see how it works and see how it develops out. And we've got a fantastic team behind us, so it's going to be very interesting to see how the whole thing plans out in the future, very near future. We should probably launch the program by the end of the month. It's the 13th of April now, so by the end of the month it'll probably be launched. And it's very exciting, very exciting. So if you want to check that out, mayoromsociety.com, link in the description, and you can sign up for a free call. So thanks for watching.